production lately in this last day.
Yes.
It's,
Yes.
Yeah, I'm still up for carrying them here, but hey, maybe Parallax wants to sell them too. But it's so
Well, I just hit the record button, so why don't we get started? Welcome to the Propeller2 live forum. Today's topic, Ray presents RetroBlade2, and Peter will have a short presentation updating us on the P2D2. I only have a few things to show you today. Next week, though, is going to be a very hard and fast sales job on you because we'll have our new website going. So I'll request about 8 minutes of your time. Last week, I showed you this simulation. And then this week we have the actual product. So these are finally in stock. And they look really good. These are my photos, not our real photos. Making them is a bit of a challenge, it turns out. You know, it would be really nice if we could just throw the parts on the board and then run it through our selective solder. That's what we're doing, but we have to tape the areas around the connectors. Because the nozzle is just big enough that it will fill in those holes.
Oh,
so like on this is our machine. See that selective solder and the size of that bubble?
Right.
What?
Yeah. And
That'd be bad.
No, it's a Zoom.
so we're getting it figured out, but we're still shooting for the $10 price to our customers because we promised that, if anyone is paying attention.
You couldn't pre-flux that?
We do. It has a nozzle for flux, and we spray that on.
Right.
Yeah, the issue is really getting the solder bead size down, but it's going all right.
Are those empty via holes? Are those the extra pins that aren't brought out to headers?
You know, Chip did this with Michael, so Chip, tell us about it.
Those have, I think they're just there for whatever use you want to use them for. I don't think they connect to any extra signals, but I don't remember.
So on this board, you don't have all 64 IOs available?
No, there's like 32, there's 2 sets of 2 connectors, so that's 16 times 2, and then near the power jack, you have the last 8-pin set, which is used for the programming and the flash, but you can plug that wireless module into there.
Okay.
There's 24 IOs that the only way to get at them is the bottom of the edge connector.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, 4 headers.
Yeah.
Would have been nice to have pads or something on the bottom for them.
Well, you could use that other solder till your heart's content board we have. Do you remember that thing? Get out your blowtorch or your MIG and go to town. And then yesterday, these arrived.
Oh, cool.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
Real final production ones. Sweet.
Yeah, see, there's no ES.
No ES on it.
Look at that.
Isn't that amazing?
Very nice.
Whoa.
And you've got thousands of them?
Yeah, we have somewhere north, I think 4,000, 5,000 to start, and we have a 20-week lead time, but we're just going to order some more and try to keep about 5 to 10,000 in stock at all times.
Congratulations. That's exciting.
It is. Good job, Chip.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, well, we all worked on this for so long. It's too bad we didn't put our new logo on there, but we had ratified this artwork like over probably almost 2 years ago.
Yeah, we don't want to restart that International Space Station, do we?
No,
Nope.
that's what it is too.
We'll settle for this P2 logo.
Yeah, we couldn't get Chip's signature on the top.
Right.
I need some special glasses to write that small.
Here they are in a box.
with Apple putting calling it their A chip and their
Right.
M1 chip and all of that. I think the P2 is very appropriate.
Yes.
And I heard today Apple's new MacBook has a 8-core processor in it.
Yeah, the M1.
Yeah, it's a monstrous chip.
So
Except that it's
Yep, they haven't.
it's 4 powerful cores and 4 less powerful cores. It's not 8 uniform.
And then there's 8 GPUs and 16 ML cores, and yeah, everything's on it.
Well, Ray, you ready to take over?
Yep, sure.
Okay, I'll
Okay.
stop share.
Where's my share screen? Okay, has that come up? Oh,
Still
didn't
waiting.
hit the share button.
Yep, we got it.
Right.
There it goes.
Okay. Well, you've probably seen pictures on the forum, but I'll just flip over to my camera for a sec. How do I get to the camera? How do I make my camera the big screen, Ken?
The green share screen button, but under it, once you press it, you'll just choose your camera source.
Okay. Where can I find that?
And then I can also spot the video, and it should become large for everybody. Does that work?
That works.
Okay.
He's full
Yep.
screen.
Yep, I'm seeing him full screen.
Okay, I'll try and get that as trying to get that in focus. That's the top of my board, which you've seen anyway. That's the bottom. That's a P2. That's the sorry, a P2 eval. That's my board. So that gives you an idea of size. Peter's done a what he calls a P2 matter board, and that's it there. So it'll plug into his matrix board. That is my board soldered up. I use this little dongle that I buy for $1.50. It plugs into that little header and it can program it. Now, I've changed the pins on this little cheap board to be a mix of a socket with long pins. And I get power from that from the USB port. But if I want to disconnect the USB power, I have that little expansion header with a pin removed so it doesn't have power on it. And I'll make sure I get it around the right way. It goes in that way and I plug that in there, and now I don't get power from my USB. So I can plug into my header pins a set of power cables just into either those two pins or those two pins, and I've now got off-board 5 volts coming in from a power pack with 5 volts. So I'll just remove that, put it back to there. So that's what I've got. Now, you'll also notice under here, underneath my VGA is a set of 16 I/O pins. So if you don't solder the the VGA connector, you can solder a set of pins on there, and that then means you've got all the way around the board, you've got 48 I/O. So 0 to 47. Then in here are 4 little pins that make up another set of the 16 that come on this side of the chip. So 4 of them go to the two USB chips, 4 go to the micro SD and flash chip. 4, 8, 6 are these, so that's 14, and then the 2 serial pins. So in fact, every pin is broken out. It's just that 6 of them are just on little tiny pads that will take Kynar wire, so 28 or 30 gauge Kynar wire, single strand will go in there if you want to put it onto a pin somewhere. There are actually 4 spare pin. Yeah, I don't think I connected ground to those 2 pins there, but if you want to play around and do something else, if you are using Gary's USB, I found out that because I hadn't played with it, I found out it requires 2 extra pins. One of those is just for flashing a LED to indicate that the port's working or not working. The other one is a communication pin, and it uses it internally to pass through information that there's something available on the USB, so that it can correlate the communications between the cog doing the USB and your normal program. His current code is set up to be 2 pins below the USB pins. I'm modifying his code so that it can be anywhere else, because in particular I go straight from, as I come around here, I've got 47, then 48, 49, 50, 51 go to these 2 USB connectors.
Testing.
And so I want to use 52, 3, 4, and 5, which are these little breakouts, because they're not so usable on the board, better to use them. It's an easy enough thing, I just haven't done it. So there's no issue there. I've moved them to make sure that they're all working. I've had the keyboard plugged into there. The easiest way with plugging in, because these are micro USBs, is little $1.50 dongle. Has a female USB-A on it, and just plugs in like that, and then you plug your keyboard into it, and it's a nice tiny little connector. And yes, 2 of them will fit together, but that's how I designed it. So what else can I tell you? So the board, it's I might just flip over to my other shared screen while I go through some documents. Okay, so as we go down here, I'm presuming you can all see it okay?
A house.
Yep.
Yep, okay. So the board is 2.2 inches long. It's 1.6 inches wide, meaning the pins are on a 1.5 pitch. That just allows the 16 IOs to come across the bottom of the board underneath the VGA, which now while we're talking about that, I'll go onto this in this order. So it's an ENIG, which means it's gold. It's a 2-layer board, blue, 1.6 millimeters. If I do some more, I'm
Testing
probably...
1, 2.
Sorry?
Testing 1, 2.
Oh.
Okay, testing this new microphone, and I can't hear myself.
We hear
I want
you.
to know if it sounds good. So I'm going to look at it with a Fourier transform.
Trying to find, okay, just checking off a few minutes here.
Hey, we've got a Zoom meeting going on, guys.
Okay. Oh, got him. It was Gerald. I guess he finally got a headset. Okay. The audio engineer is properly equipped.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on. My board requires 5 volts, about 500 milliamps max, because there are limitations on the board. So you can bring that in a number of ways. They're all in parallel. There's no links or jumpers. If you're going to bring it in multiple ways, you need to make sure you isolate it. Okay. Now, you can bring it in from the PC header. That's that USB dongle. So you come from the PC USB port. They typically can handle up to 500 milliamps. Some of them will do higher. I'm only speccing 500 milliamps. If you go above 500 milliamps, you really need a different board. My board's not designed for pumping 2 amps. You're never going to see 2 amps anyway, but I made a couple of design constraints early on in the piece, and I'm happy that I've done so. You can also bring it in on the left or the right header at the top. There's 2 pins. So on each side, I've got a 20 pin plus an additional 2. Now those top 20 pins are ground, 5 volt, 3.3 volt, which is back out, and a ground. So typically, if you want to connect to your 16 pins, you can use an 18 pin header and it'll bring across 3.3 volts and ground to your external, whatever you're doing. You can also bring it in on either of the micro USB ports. So if you want to connect it as an input from a PC, that's fine. If you want to connect a USB keyboard or mouse, then it's going to obviously be the output 5 volts. Okay, next one, the PC connection is a 6-pin connector. I've made it exactly the CP2102 TTL 6-pin, which you can get for about $1.50. It's the one that uses the full-size USB connector, because guess what? They made a micro USB board, looks the same, a little bit smaller, looks really nice, and they changed the pin out. You know, why they can't stick to a standard, I don't know. Anyway, so you can power it from the USB port. I have the optional transistor reset on my board, and so it's selected by a solderable link. So you would normally use it one way or another. If you're going to use a prop plug, you will want to bypass the transistor reset. You want to use a cheap dongle, you'll need the transistor reset. Okay, now there's 0.1 inch pitch headers. On the left-hand side, I bring out port pins 0 to 15 and included, as I said before, on the top coming down, we go ground 5 volt, 3.3, and then ground. Then we go 0 through to 15. Across the bottom, which replaces the VGA, or if you really are smart and solder it up underneath the VGA before you connect the VGA, then you can get access to the extra pins. So across the bottom, left to right, we have 15 to 31. There is no ground or 3.3 on that section because it needs the whole width of the board. The VGA sits on pins 27 to 31. A little unusual. I've modified CHIP's VGA code, which takes 4 pins plus the 5th for vertical sync, and I've allowed it to be on a 4-port boundary rather than an 8-port boundary. I think there's about 3 lines I changed in the code. So that moves the vertical sync to the pin below the 4. So if you specify pin 28, which is what my code sits on, you've got 28, 29, 30, 31 of the horizontal sync, blue, green, red. And then vertical sync is sitting on pin 27. I wanted to shove it out of the way so that if I really wanted to do something, I had the maximum number of contiguous pins before the VGA got in the road. Hence, you can go 0 to 26 around it. Okay, so as I said, 15 to 26 can still be accessed on the underside of the PCB, even if the VGA is already fitted. On the right-hand side following around, we have P32 to 47, including the ground, etc. pins from the top. So top down, we go ground 5, 3.3, ground, and then we go 47 down to 32. So it's slightly different to the other side because the pin IO pins are reversed in direction, obviously, because that's the way they come out of the chip. Then across the top, we've got J5 and J6, they're micro USB ports, and the J5's connected to 48 and 49. which is a D-D+, and 5051's connected to the second port. Also 5-volt and ground, obviously, on those pins. And as I said, if you want to use Gary's code to connect a mouse and a keyboard, I haven't tried the mouse, I have tried the keyboard. Keyboard works on both those connectors, but you'll need to just specify in the code sample to use pins, and I suggest 52, 3, 4, and 5 for those extra pins that he uses. Next, 52 to 57 are brought out to mini pads on the PCB, and they'll accept a single strand of AWG 28 to 30 Kynar wire wrap wire. I've mentioned about Gary's USB port. 58 to 61 are connected to the onboard micro SD socket and to the optional flash. There's an onboard pull-up that will be on your boards whether you get flash or not, connected to P61, and it's via a link. It's on a 50 thou spacing, and I'll be shipping a pair of pins and a jumper with it. Hopefully I've got enough jumpers because I didn't buy too many at the first round. Right. J4 is the 6-pin header compatible with the CP2102 USB dongle. It's a 6-pin dongle because there are 5-pin dongles. Use a different pin out, so make sure you get the 6-pin one. Don't use the 3.3 volts from it. It's only regulated by the CP2102. You'll kill it. P61 and 62 are connected to our standard receive and transmit pins. Reset's connected to DTR via the onboard solderable link to either the transistor reset circuit or just the 100 nanofarad series capacitor. Typo there. Bypasses the transistor reset. And it's connected to the reset pin on the P2 is connected to a 10K pull-up. 5-volt and ground are provided on this header. The board can be powered from the USB port. I put a warning in there about basically the 500 milliamps, and don't connect the 3.3 volt pin. Micro SD and flash. Most of you will be aware the P2 is designed to share the 4 SPI pins between the micro SD and the flash chips. We do this just by switching the chip select and clock pins, and pull-ups will determine what the boot code uses. I'm not aware of any problems with the micro SD on RevB ROM, so you shouldn't be having any pins with conflicts. My code is designed to clear down the D0 pin, which is an output pin from the flash chip. The RevA did have a problem where it didn't release it in some micro SD cards. It's actually a bug in the micro SD card. It's supposed to release the pins when you give it the 8 clock pulses with the data being high at the end of a transaction. Right, there is a different bug in Peanut, which I'll come on to later, because Peanut doesn't like having a flash chip, having a micro SD port chip in there. Its timing's incorrect for the reset. I'll talk with Chip offline about that too, because it should be an easy fix. Software available for demos. I'm not going to show you the VGA. I think you pretty much know what VGA looks like. I'm not going to show you the 1.4-inch color LCD I've put on. I will show you the 4-inch color. Nice and interesting. 80 characters on a column, or 60 characters on a column, depending on whether you utilize the 6x8 or 8x8 font. I'm not going to show you the USB keyboard connected. I will show you a demo of the OS, my OS that's working, It's not fully operational. There are some bugs, and the whole mechanism of it sitting, how it's going to sit in hub and stay resident is not fully operational either. But there's sections of it that work. I'm going to show you CPM 2.2 with the Z80 emulation. It's not fully debugged, but I can run an mbasic program, and I'll show you that and saving it. Okay. Are there any questions? Okay.
Oh, hey, Ray.
Yes, Chip?
Would you want to go over briefly? I think it's a timing bug. I'm not waiting long enough.
Yeah, it's a timing bug. Load P2 works fine, but I discovered it. Also, just to make sure it doesn't boot from the flash, in case you've got code on there, if you set the switch 3 on, which pulls P59 high, it will stop it from booting. Now, I think when you stop it from booting, the P2 eval works. I've got but on my board, I don't have that optional pull-up. And if I've got a USB, an SD card in there without the boot file, so underline boot, underline p2.bix, or the boot parameters in the volume label or boot label sector, it still takes time, so it actually won't see the board. As soon as I pull the card out, it's fine. Eric's Flex Pop works fine with Load P2, so yeah, it's just a timing error. And I think it probably isn't waiting long enough.
Okay.
And you don't even need to download any code to it. If you do an ID, it won't find the board.
So what's happening is it's going off to the code, your code that's checking for an SD card, and then I'm getting impatient and moving on because I don't hear anything.
Yes, exactly. And you know, it can take, before I can search to see whether there's a valid file on the SD card, I've got to reset the SD card, initialize it, and that can take up to 300 milliseconds, and classically takes 200 plus.
Okay, what would be a worst case time I should allow for?
I allow for a second in my time. I haven't seen any cards go over the high 300s. It doesn't mean that there aren't any. But they all take a considerable amount of time to initialize.
So I'm thinking, I'm trying to remember the sequence of events because there's some, exchange going on. So I do a reset pulse, and then I wait. I have to wait before I try to do anything, right?
Yep. But
here's a problem. I only wait 100 milliseconds in some modes, right? So we have to put like P59, is it high?
Yep.
And then do you think I'll need like a little checkbox somewhere that just say, accommodate SD card? Or can both be handled seamlessly?
Both should be able to be handled seamlessly, I would have thought, and certainly Eric does, in Load P2, so he's got the right timeout in there. So I would have thought that maybe you're hitting it after reset, you're hitting it with the identifier, the greater than space, whatever you do to determine the version. Maybe if it gets nothing back, continue to try it. Because that way you'll get the quick. You won't have to wait the length of time initially to see that you've got it, but you may have to.
Yeah, Jim Granville just put on the chat that Load P2 repeats, and he thinks Load 2P repeats and interrogate every 50 milliseconds. Because see, that's what would have to be done. Because if the SD is not there, the chip's going to wait 100 milliseconds, and then it's going to go ahead and boot if there's no serial. So in the case of the SD being present, I'm just going to have to ping it for a period of time and see when and if I get anything.
That's right. But if you've pinged it, then you're waiting the minimum amount of time if it's not there, which stops people
faster.
getting frustrated when they don't have a card there.
Right. Okay.
But now we've got it, and I don't know whether you're around, but when these boards come over to the US, I'm sending a couple of them to you and Ken. One will have the flash chip on it, and one won't.
Ray, do you need us to send you some chips?
No, Peter and I will organise some Rev Cs shortly, because he doesn't have many left, but we've got enough to do this round with the Rev Bs, and then they'll all be gone.
Okay, let us know how we can help you.
Yep. Thanks, Ken.
What's your schedule like?
I'll be, after the end of this, Peter will send me down some chips. They'll probably arrive Monday or Tuesday. I can't do anything on Monday. I work on Mondays. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'll assemble them.
And then how about all the people on the forums who are anxious to send you money?
Yep. Well, I'll get the boards done while they're in the air. They can organise the money. Publison's offered, Jim's offered to ship them out. I found that I can actually ship them over fairly fast through Australia Post with their express post thing. So they say 2 to 4 working days, but there's a delay with COVID, so maybe a week to 10 days to get them into the US. So we're talking probably about.
I'm here to get them and put them out as fast as I can get.
Great, thanks, Jim. Yeah, my guess is Jim should have them in 2 to 2.5 weeks. I'm not sure whether I'm going to be able to do all the ones with the flash chips though, because I only have one 8 meg flash chip that'll go on it. Most of Peter's are WSONs, and I'm not comfortable with putting a WSON package on it because I've got to put a wire on the board. I didn't connect in my rush to shove this on the board at the last minute. You know what happens in rushes, you forget something, and I didn't check the specs. And it requires hold and right protect to be pulled high or driven high. And I don't have connections on those 2 pins, so I've got to put a wire across the top of the chip.
He didn't Man at Work have that Murphy today?
Yeah, Murphy was around, and EPROMs don't require it. They've got internal pull-ups. Well, it looks like the flash chips, they didn't put the internal pull-ups in. So, yeah. All right. That 80.
And Ray, as I mentioned, we'll provide you with some professional pictures, and we'll feature it on our website when you figure out how you want them to be available. I think your plan with Publison is a good one too, because we just tend to make things more expensive.
Yeah. They're it's not a fast shipping if we ship them individually from Australia, but it's not all that expensive, and I find that other than a few obscure countries, they don't go missing. So I've had pretty good success from that. Okay, moving right along. Let me flip over.
Took me 9 months to get something from Russia.
Yeah. Did they ship it straight away though?
They shipped it. It spent most of its time in customs here in the state. Because, you know, I tracked the packages and it sat there for a long time.
They were trying to figure out if it had something to do with the election.
It was knitting yarn.
Do they have special cheap in Russia?
No, they have different ways of weaving. Every country has a different way of making its yarn and how it winds it and how much it dyes. You know, they have different color dyes from different countries. So you find unique yarns by looking in other countries. I love a lot of the British yarn.
Yarn and robotics. All right.
Oh, I also race RC boats. And look at the roof of my room. I got bunches and bunches of planes up there. Where am I? I can't see me. Oh, there I am. Over there.
People who don't know, you should know. This is really only the beginning because you have the garage and you have another space full of electronics. And then you have your bay window looking out full of electronics too.
This is my sewing and building and electronics room. But all the stuff I build in like that is the living room's full of my shit too. Almost
And
looks
you
like a
3D
hoarder
print.
sometimes.
You need to
Huh?
you need to do something where you mix 3D printing with yarn and electronics all together in one.
Mix it with electronics. Come up with the idea of some squirrel gymnastic type things you can hang in your tree.
Okay, I'm trying to flip over, Ken, to my camera. Where is the...
Same place.
Oh, that's tonight.
Green share button. And then you'll see all your video sources.
All right, I'm not seeing my
So
camera.
your camera's
tool.
actually, we're seeing the camera right now because we see your hand and your desk.
Yep. Is that full size?
You need to spotlight him though, Ken.
Okay. Roy, I'm going to give you host control whenever I'm gone now. Okay, why don't I see the spot video?
Oh, man.
Okay, there we go. Okay, I've spotted them.
Hey, don't look at my keyboard.
Okay. Right. When I ship these boards, because I don't want this big connector floating around, I'm actually going to insert it into the board like that, and then it won't flop around. It's very easy to remove it. Just these two little mounting pins here just need to be squeezed slightly. Do it with a pair of pliers. I haven't got my pliers out. I can do it with my fingers. And just pinch them a little bit and I'll pull out. So if you don't want the VGA connector, pull it aside that way. That's how you get it out, but that just aids in shipping. Now, what I'm going to show you is this 4-inch LCD. I've removed the pins, which is why I say send a lot of the boards out without soldering the pins, let people put whatever they want on them. I had to desolder it to put a socket on. Very interesting the way they connect these. We've got VCC ground, so you can supply this with 3.3 volts or 5 volts. So if I supply it with 3.3 and ground, and then all the other pins follow my prop pins. So guess what? Plugs nice and neatly. Miss the first 2 pins on my connector.
And is that a 4D display?
No, it's a cheap El Cheapo $10 flea bay variety.
Maybe you can get us a link to the El Cheapo.
Yep, I've actually got a thread on there.
Oh,
I
it's
think
there,
there's a link to
online.
that for the 4-inch screen where I did all the software for it. And it's got, this one's got the touchpad, resistive touchpad on top as well. Not that I've got that to work yet. So trying to get to the right angle where you can
I just
see.
picked 2 of those up off of Amazon for $4.69 a piece.
Wow. Okay, so you can see I've got 2 pins on this side free, and then bang, I just go pick up power ground and the next so many prop pins from 47 down. I'll power this with my trusty USB. Okay. Now, just to make sure I get this right.
Yeah, I saw your 80 column demo. Ooh, pretty good.
Oh. Okay, what I'm going to do is flip back to my share screen. And screen 1, I think it is. Yep. Okay, I've just called up my OS. Oh, oops. OS, all right. And I've just got to change directory. What do I do? Okay, that's loading my code. And how do I flip back quickly to my big screen? Where's?
You stop sharing your main screen, your video will come back.
Okay. And I've lost my big screen. I've done something.
I'm not sure, Roy, if he's sharing a desktop or application. It seems to be just an application, right?
Yeah, just want to get, oh, but I've lost my.
You need to do the stop sharing option.
Yeah, I've lost my big screen. I've done something. I've only got the little. There we are. It's all right. I wasn't right. That's better. I'll go back and reload this. Okay, so. Yeah, it's not focusing real well, but there's a picture on the forum showing this all working with the text. There's just my clock that will run on it, so just shows it running. I don't as yet have a proper piece of code in there to drive it as if it were a terminal. That will come later, but that was my intention, which is why I wanted to get the 80 characters on a screen. So I'll now remove that out of my hair.
Anybody have questions for Ray about the driver or software interface to that display?
What pins are you using off the VGA?
On the VGA or on the LCD?
VGA.
VGA, I'm using 20 to 31.
Okay.
The code for that LCD is up on the, there's a thread with the 4-inch LCD, and the code's up there to have a play with. All right.
What are they making now?
Rather than continue to flip backwards and forwards, I'll just load this up.
Maybe while Ray gets that ready, I'll share a picture briefly. This is an image that Chip and I put together yesterday for a 9-inch display that I have, but I'm not totally happy with the quality of it. I was looking at stocking these with the driver board that Roy found, but I'm still looking.
Okay, I'll share my screen. Okay, this is going to load my board up with my little operating system. Now my SD card has on it a number of files, particularly has all the CPM files. Hang on, I didn't share that. You should be able to see the screen with the text on it now.
Yep.
Okay, it's now loaded the code into the prop. So it's responded with ST colon. This that's the prompt out of my OS code. So if I do a directory CPM, and I'm doing it this way first because there's a bug in my code. Where did that code? Didn't go on there. Oh. They're all the CPM files. So the way I've got CPM set up is the same as I had it set up on the P1. I've got a file in there, a series of 8 meg files. Each one of them represents a hard disk under CPM, but under the FAT32, it's a single file, 8 megabytes. So I've just done a directory of the CPM files on the A disk, which is called zycog_a.dsk. And they're all the files that are actually sitting in there. I've got programs that will move backwards and forwards between the CPM file system and the FAT32 file system. And they work. Now, I can also do a directory of the FAT32. And they're the files on the FAT32, and you'll see that there's a number of .dsk files. They're the different CPM disks on this board. Now, if I want to shift, so there's also a help file. Not all of those functions are working, but you can see clear works, copy, as far as I can tell works, delete works, diff works, directory works, haven't verified the masks. Free tells me how much free space there is on the file. Same with used, it's exactly the same program under two names. Help you've seen. I can toggle line feeds on and off because some terminal programs want line feed with carriage return, some of them don't. So within the OS, I can just turn that off and on just by doing LF. And then you see it didn't do a new line. LF will turn it back on. Help you've seen LS is a different kind, and there's some quirk I've got in there that it's not. It's supposed to do a sort, and there's some reason why it's not working out the correct number of columns on the page or on the line. Reboot's not working. Rename works. Read sector. I thought I could read that. Is it 6 digits? I can't remember how many digits it is. No. I thought I had that working, but run definitely doesn't work. That's requiring some thought into how I'm actually going to load it. I can load a file and run it because the loading program actually sits in its own cog and can load up without needing to have hub, so I can load it into hub 0. So I do know that works, but not within this program. There's an SD card test. I think I've run it, but I'm not going to try. I can show you the type. This is the old P1 help file. Okay. So they're all the things that were in the old file. I don't think I'm finished going through those. Okay, so the run type used a version. Yes, you can type a version. Then there's the directory of the CPM file. You can move files between CPM and FAT to CPM. The next two don't work, FAT to PC and PC to FAT. That just displays the normal stuff. It gives me my clock frequency, which guess what, it's not showing it. It's showing where the SD card is, what the serial is, and the screen size, 80 by 25. Of course, we're on a terminal that is completely different to that. And it's telling me what cogs I've got available. It says I've got 7 cogs free. Cog 0 is being used because at this point in time I haven't separated the SD driver out to its own cog, whereas when I get to show you the CPM, it's already in its own cog. Okay, I'm going to close that down and reopen in the CPM one. Has that got, are you seeing the screen in there again?
Small, but we see the command prompt.
Okay, I should have hung, well, no, it doesn't. Yeah, that's better. Should have sung out earlier, I would have changed it.
And Ray, I'm going to pass host over to Chip because I have to go to a website meeting.
Yep, sure.
This looks great.
Okay.
And you'll share P2D2 a little bit as well, or
yep.
Peter will. Okay. Thanks all. Chip, passing it over to you.
Thanks again.
Gosh, now that the boss is gone, we could all chit chat.
Okay, that's compiling my Z80 CPM emulation. It's downloading it to the board. Takes a little while, leaving it 2 meg. It's 131K that it's got to download. Right, so we just booted it up. You can see as my experimental version 54A, the SD driver's in cog1. It's found the disk files A to H, and that's what the files are, where it's found them on the SD card and their size. They're all 8 megs. You can see one here was 32 megs. We tried to make a 32 meg file, but it didn't work. And the last one is the boot disk. It actually loads the boot code from the SD card to boot the Z80. You can see it says it's a 64K CPM version 2.2. That's the BIOS version. You'll notice that back to 2009 hasn't changed. The emulation's changed, but the actual raw CPM stuff is exactly the same as I use on the P1. Zycog was the code that the Z80 code that Heater wrote. He also wrote the BIOS, which is this boot hard disk, and it's still totally valid. So I can plug this micro SD card, the same card, into a P1 or a P2, and it'll run CPM for me. Okay, if I flip across to the E drive on CPM, they're just the files on it. If I call in mbasic, and I type in and just to see what we've got, there it is. We can run it. We get an answer of 12, 3 4s are 12, that's correct. Let's call it, I think I've got Zoom on there, so I'll call it Zoom file. Oh.
Hey, Ray.
Yep.
Can you run, I mean, you have a 64K map there for that instance of CPM, right?
Yep.
So you could run like multiple instances of CPM and maybe have them converse over separate sets of pins, but is there any value in doing that you see?
No, you'd be better off to run CPM 3, which is a multitasking. But we didn't ever do that. You've got to do bank switching to have that run. But most people seem to be interested in CPM 2.2.
I see.
And we've got plenty of room for that, but we can always introduce bank switching, but it'll marginally slow because you've got to play around with the addressing.
Right.
But when compared to the P1 where we had to go to external static RAM, having it in hub is really ideal. And I haven't tweaked this code to use all the decoding stuff that you wrote for running an interpreter. It's still running my old method of getting a set of vectors. So there's 3 vectors that it gets. So every instruction that it emulates is divided down into 3 possible subroutines. So I'll save that out. You'll notice I'm using uppercase because if you don't use uppercase, it'll save it as lowercase. And then the directory of CPM doesn't see the lowercase entries. They're there, but it doesn't see it. So just to prove that it works, I'll type in 10, 8 equal 22. You can see it's there, it gives me 88. Now I'll load. I'll list it. See the A's gone back to 3. And I've got the correct 12. So that's Microsoft Basic working for you.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Yeah, I don't actually know a lot about CPM. I used as a tool in the very early 80s. So I edited it and edited source code, Z80 code, but not CPM code. So go back to A. A whole pile of stuff there. I haven't tried running WordStar or any of those. We do have them on the disk. I haven't run any of the validated programs through the Z80 yet either. Though I'm reasonably confident it's pretty close because I did a fairly thorough conversion from Pulmo's Z80 code. So I've come to what I think is basically the end. Is there, I'll flip back out, I'll stop sharing. Is there any questions?
Do you have a URL that we can go to look at the things we forgot or didn't get?
At the moment, the only thing is on the forum. I haven't posted anything up to my website. It's clusos.com, clusos.com, but there's none of this on there. There's all my old stuff.
You're on the Parallax forum?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's all right.
There's a Retroblade 2 thread in under P2 and all the information on there is what's the latest. It'll take me a while to update the website. I'm more interested in getting it out there at the moment, getting people to play with it, find bugs and perhaps help.
So you're not ready to market it yet or anything?
No, that'll take me a little while.
Oh, I'm always looking for new stories I can write for Servo.
Okay, well, I'll let you know when it's done. I'll keep an eye on the forum. I'm on the forum every day, multiple times a day.
Oh, okay.
Except Mondays.
One of the things, I'm writing a big article right now on COVID-19 and how it's affecting the hobby robotics industry.
Yep.
And I've gotten a good deal of information from several people and Ken too. So if you've had any COVID-19 related shipping or equipment gathering or mailing or anything, you know, write me a little blurb about it and I can add it into the article.
Shall do. Yeah, it's been a really interesting change that COVID's brought upon us, forced upon us. We've certainly jumped to remote working. Fortunately, at work where we're set up, I work 2 days a week, but one day is a Monday and the others just fill in time during the week when I need to do things. But fortunately, we're already set up. I look after the IT as the second in charge of the IT department. My boss and I set it all up. He'd had it set up way before me, before I came to work for them. And everyone's been capable and worked from home at various times. So we were very fortunate that we all had our computers all set up. All our passwords and everything were there. It was just a matter of moving home. So, you know, I've got my PC set up with 3 24-inch 1080p screens. My wife's got 2 24-inch 1080p screens sitting there.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And this is my setup. So yeah, there's only a small number of us at work, but we all started working from home. We do a video broadcast every Tuesday afternoon, evening, and an extra one every month, where we have live guests. We run for about an hour. That's all being done remotely, which we were fortunate. We were already doing remote guests in, so it wasn't too much of a hassle. Yeah, we were very fortunate. We were ready, but you know, in such a short time, there's the whole business venture all moved to working from home throughout the world. It was, I guess, 1-2 years ago would have been much more difficult for most organisations. I think we were very fortunate it didn't happen a couple of years ago. You know, even my daughter was running she's a school teacher in England, and they were running all their lessons from home for the first half a term or something. They were running, and yeah, they were still covering all their stuff that they needed to cover. Just some people had to go out and buy tablets. That's all they didn't have at home. Quite amazing, really.
Yeah, it's affected a lot of people in weird ways. I taught a lot of different groups of young people, some from schools. It wasn't really STEM. It was just me coming in and giving a demonstration and then teaching them, coming in once a week and teaching them how to put together and run a Bobot. And I can't do that anymore.
Yeah. Anyway, moving right along. Is Peter around? I can't see him on the screen. Are you there, Peter?
Let's see. Let me see on the list here.
Yeah, it doesn't appear to be. I think he would have chimed in if he was. I spoke to him just before we got underway, and he wasn't feeling the best.
Well, you did have just a little exchange with him a bit ago, right?
All right.
I heard his voice.
All right.
I don't know what happened to him.
I don't recall seeing Peter on earlier.
I thought I heard him say something that Ray talked to him.
I just sent him a quick text message. I'll see, but I know he certainly wasn't feeling the best this morning. So he unfortunately has some of these days. I can't show you anything. I can show you a couple of things of his boards because he sent them down when he sent me a couple of prop chips. Let me find what he sent.
You're not in Australia right now, are you?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, Peter's up in Queensland, in Brisbane.
Oh.
I'm 100 kilometres north of Sydney in a place called the Central Coast. Okay, give you an idea of sizing. Let me disconnect my board. Actually, it'd be easier if I just do that.
Ray, you messaged Peter, right?
Yeah. Okay, that's my board. That's Peter's board. So notice they're exactly the same height. as the P2D2.
Yeah.
I'm holding it by a little breakout piece that will come off. So that gives you an idea of his size. Yeah, it's a very, very tight board. Lots of parts on it.
Ray, did you show a board that he made that had holes on 50,000 centers? Did I see you waving something like that around?
Do you mean
Yep.
this one here?
Yeah.
So that has, no,
That's
those are
got 50
staggered.
That's got 50 thou holes. That's a board Peter made and he's selling.
But they're not on 50,000 centers, are they? That's
Yep.
not the pitch.
Yep, they're 50 thou centers.
Oh, but are they staggered? Like,
It's very interesting. Every 0.1 pitch hole is slightly bigger, so you can plug a standard 0.1 header in.
but you can plug a 50,000 pitch header in also?
So that's a 0.1.
Right.
I don't think it will plug into the 50 thou hole because I think, yep, it won't plug into the 50 thou hole because they're too small.
Okay, I get it. So there are some areas that are 50 thousandths in line.
It's in between every 10 thou hole, 100 thou hole, 0.1 inch hole, there's a 50 thou hole.
Okay.
I'm just looking for, I've got a 50 thou header here somewhere. Yep, there it is. I'll just show you that the 50 thou will plug in anywhere on it. So basically it's laid out, it's 50 thou pitch. Yep, so there's 50 thou header in it.
Oh, okay. Oh, neat.
So yes, you can do either. And they're just all uncommitted holes.
All right. So I'll switch.
Now, Peter just okay, Peter's just texted me. He's had a hard weekend. He's feeling run down like trash. He wouldn't be able to do much. So we'll give him a miss. I'll let him recuperate a little bit.
Right. All right. So that kind of concludes what you were talking about, right?
Yep, sure does.
Okay, let's see. Now, if I switch back, oh boy, I've never been here at the dashboard before. So let me get a grid. Okay, so without Peter's presentation, we don't have anything in particular to discuss, but we can talk about whatever anyone's interested in.
Going to ask a question. I know you're very interested in audio. Have you heard about the AI app that MIT has recently published?
No.
This is an app where you can cough into your phone and it can diagnose with almost 100% accuracy whether or not you have COVID, and it'll even diagnose with almost 100% accuracy asymptomatic COVID. Do you have any idea what they might be using to do that analysis?
Well, it would have to be some kind of spectral analysis, I would think, where they try to get some kind of framework out of the coarse spectral framework of the sound and then look for some kind of details, I would suppose.
Isn't that just perfectly matched for a P2?
Yeah, I think we should be able to do that. I mean, what could they be listening for? They'd have to hear some kind of like something that would indicate maybe a bit of congestion or something. And would a cold not trigger it? It's hard for me to believe that without a, like say a known good from the same person that they can suddenly detect a bad, because people have all kinds of respiratory issues like COPD, and it's COVID that's asymptomatic. Seems to me it would be buried so far down in the overall sample that without a reference, how would you even know?
If it were just a random somebody reporting that on the web, I'd say, yeah, maybe you're right. But with MIT, and they did publish it, so I'm really interested in what they're doing there. My wife works at a school, and she had to take a COVID test today. The results are not going to be back for 4 days.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah,
you could copy your iPhone and get a result in 2 minutes, that would be amazing. Or into a P2.
They're listening. They'd be listening for there's a particular sound that you get. I have bronchiectasis, and it's a very low infection right down deep in the lung. I can tell by the sound when my chest is playing up before I start getting the pain. So yeah, but testing for the right sort of rumbling sound will be interesting, because I know COVID is a similar type of thing. It's a mucus on the lung. But it's marvelous what good, fast computers can do these days.
If they can test someone who's asymptomatic, what would they be looking for? Because asymptomatic means they have no signs of any disease.
It's a good question.
They have a higher temperature.
The algorithm, they say, is also used to diagnose Alzheimer's, because apparently your vocal cords change when you get Alzheimer's, or your ability to control them. So to me, it sounds like something that would be just easy, right up the alley of a P2.
But that's not a symptom of COVID, so they couldn't use it.
They developed it originally for Alzheimer's, and then they plugged in the sounds of COVID patients that they have tested and they know had it, even asymptomatic people. So I don't know how they're doing it.
Yeah, I would think
kind of why I brought it up.
Oh, go ahead, Robert.
Well, the body's so complicated. Somebody who's got Alzheimer's and your voice has changed, your voice changed just from getting older, because like your heart valves, your vocal cords can stiffen over time. And that's why a lot of marvelous singers can't sing when they're older.
What they've found is if they do X-rays, they can actually see the mucus build up on the lungs way before you get symptoms, and that's probably what they're detecting.
Oh, I doubt if they put an X-ray machine in a phone.
No, but that's but they're detecting the equivalent of that by sound, because it is a mucus buildup, and that's how they found it originally in Wuhan. Apparently, it was showing up on X-rays.
It'd be interesting to online and research what they're looking for.
In our chats, you'll see links to 2 different articles that speak to how they're doing it.
Okay.
The article that is referenced here is the IEEE Journal of Engineering in Medicine and Biology. They say recently published. I don't know what the date is.
There's 3 different links up there now.
Oh, okay.
And so, yeah, they're doing a cough comparison before and after, it looks like, if I'm reading that correctly. So that would take out your age issues that you were talking about.
A lot of those kinds of problems today are approached with machine learnings, where they just feed a whole bunch of data in and then say this was positive, this was negative, this was positive, and then the neural net resolves whether it's yay or nay.
Yeah.
Because that could be done on a programmatically. You could write code to do something like that, but I just kind of suspect that's not what they're doing, because I just have a feeling they're using some kind of
Yeah.
machine learning and just
If you look at the articles, they talk about using machine learning.
Hmm. I'm sorry you guys you're seeing me. I'm trying to make it so it shows the speaker, but I can't figure out.
Just unspotlight. Like, spotlighting is an option, so if you unspotlight, then no one will be spotlighted.
Oh, here we go. Okay, then can I?
I'll speak up and maybe that will get me.
There you go. Now it's
Okay,
doing it.
here we go.
Anyway, before I get off, I just wanted to say thank you, Ray, for a good presentation. And
Yes. Thank you.
I may be a major distributor in the U.S. for Ray's boards and Nicholas's boards, Man at Work, and Peter's. I may have all that stuff coming in here in the near future. So we're going to work out North American distribution, I hope.
Yep, thanks very much for that, Jim.
Yeah, I hope you're up with that.
For as long as I've been in computers, it amazes me that I can sit here and do something like this. One guy's in Australia and a couple of them are in California, and I'm here in Seattle.
That is amazing.
I'm in Tennessee. Used to live in Seattle. Great city.
Yeah, it was before they started all these protests.
Oh, let's stay away from that.
Oh, even more than that. I mean, we've got people like the WTO who come in and have protests because Seattle has a lot of large business meetings and conventions and stuff. And it seems like there's somebody who doesn't want them there. I mean, I think if they held the sewing expo again next year, you'd have people outside saying, cloth is cruel, it ruins cotton, you kill those things. Think of all the weevils that have lost their home because you mowed down the cotton. They just come up with the weirdest things.
I'll tell you something that was interesting. Back in the late 80s, we were playing around with video phones.
Mm-hmm.
Rockwell had chips that did video phones. Didn't matter, a number of companies actually produced them, and they were an absolute flop. I think the technology just wasn't there and people weren't interested in seeing one another on a screen. Boy, has that changed.
Well, look, we can all share this together now. It's like kind of we're in the same room almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're getting pretty close to having a true Dick Tracy watch.
Yes,
It's almost there. It's almost there.
Video on it.
I used to laugh about the Maxwell Smart shoe phone. What a stupid place to put a damn phone, and with the mechanical dial in the heel.
I guess we're old if we remember that one.
I remember that.
Yeah, it seems so ridiculous these days. It's even some of the Jetson stuff starting to happen.
Yeah. I'm probably older than any of you, though. I'm
Oh, I don't know.
74. I'm 74.
Okay, you've got 5 years on me. Yeah. Boy, when I started, you couldn't do accounting with computers at university. So I didn't go to uni. I did electronics, and then went to work for a computer company, and that's how I got into computers. That was 74.
Yeah, I got into it almost the same way. We had DARPA when I was in college.
Yep. Yeah, quite amazing.
Punch
If someone had
cards.
said to me what micros were going to do, I mean, the number of times you think back and think, I could have done that on my ear. But
When I started with the internet, you had to know Unix, and there wasn't any graphics on it till somebody started, figured out how to make line type graphics and pixel pictures.
yeah,
And then World Wide Web came out. That was the big buster. That was great. I loved it.
the first
Well,
modem I designed was 1200 half duplex or 300 full duplex.
Somewhere around here, I still have some old modems stashed away.
I've
I
still
saved all my stuff.
Yeah.
got the first ones we built.
I've got, well, I don't have it anymore because I gave it to Ken as a gift. The very first basic stamp that Parallax ever put out. And it wasn't a little board that you put on something. It was built right into the board, just components around.
With a 9-volt battery,
Yeah.
9-volt battery connector, right?
It was the Milford Instruments stamp bug.
Mm.
Do you remember that?
That's a while ago.
Yes.
That would have been 92 or 93, probably 93,
Yeah.
27 years ago. Almost 28, actually.
Ken didn't show it to you when he got it?
I mean, I only see Ken when we both go to Parallax on the same day for some reason. So, because we otherwise live like 3.5 hours apart.
Yeah, Rockland's kind of in the center.
Yeah.
It's like an 80-mile drive to work for Ken, isn't it? From his home.
Yeah, well, maybe 100. It's about 125 for me, I think.
Where do you live, Skip?
I live in this little town called Red Bluff. It's 30 miles south of Redding in California.
Just look for the walnut trees.
Way out in the boondocks.
You'll find them.
Oh God, this is, I went to this, the people we bought our house from in this orchard, they have a 10 square mile ranch, 20 miles west of town. And I went out there yesterday to help them split some wood. And it's amazing how those people live. They are 3.5 miles in from every edge of their property. And everywhere you look, you'd have to look far on the horizon to see the edge of anything. And it's just rolling foothills and scrub oaks, and they keep the whole place clean. These people are really organized. And there is no like scrubby stuff on the ground. Every year there's thousands of acres, but they go around and they put everything into piles and burn it in the winter. So it's just clean grass with oaks coming out and sometimes other trees. And he has these perfectly cut roads that he refreshes every year that go through the whole place. And they have this off-grid house that's up on this hill in the middle of it. And it's really amazing. I mean, there's so much freedom. I don't even think most of us, like, to me, it's like a whole new thing to consider. But for most people, that's like completely out of the context of their life. They have no idea. And a lot of their friends worry for them because they're out in the middle of nowhere and they think that someone's going to come hurt them. But really, it's quite safe out in these places where there's nobody. And they walk around with their guns because the fact is there's mountain lions and bears and wild hogs running all over the place, and it's no big deal. But it was just interesting to spend the day out there.
Sounds like heaven to me.
Yeah, yeah. It was neat. I can't even do it justice. I don't know how to describe it. You just have to experience it.
I
It's
don't
like,
hear you. You sound like you're muted. Is that you or me?
I don't know if I'm muting, am I?
No?
Chip sounds fine here.
Yeah.
So Chip, did you want to turn off the recording since we're just sort of
Sure.
branching all over the place?
Good idea. Let me hit that. Oh, let's